Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening. Welcome along to NUFC Matters, the Thinking Fans podcast on Tyneside, and one which certainly does have some pull when one of us tweets on social media. I've got a few bites today, lads. 121,000 bites and counting. Just by saying that I thought Sky Sports were shameful for showing a graphic of a potential Liverpool lineup with Alexander Isak in it. But we're all entitled to our opinions, apart from me, of course. But that's why I tend not to post on Twitter. I just thought I'd test the water, and there was a huge shark or two in the water there. But I've ignored all the comments and ignored all the GIFs, and yeah, it's all fun and games, isn't it? And Steve Hasty, we've got a bid, and it was swiftly rejected. And it's given all the media a chance to use their favourite lines like "Newcastle brace themselves for another offer." This is what they've dreamed of. I mean, we've had crap transfer windows for the last 3 years. Newcastle. But over the last few years, transfer windows haven't been the same since Harry Redknapp drove off and shut his car window. So now we're in this position where the media are in meltdown. They love it. And they've been working towards this for 2 years. They were linking him to Arsenal for 12 calendar months. Now it's Liverpool. Now they've got what they want, somebody actually bidding. And the answer is still no. What is going on, Steve, with this? It's the story that runs and runs.
On, Steve, but I think the only next step for Alexander Isak is to do a Peter Ruggan-Wingy and go and sit in his car outside the Sefton, I think, and then hope that somebody spots him. Because quite frankly, this has been 2 weeks of absolute comedy gold for everybody, hasn't it? I mean, it's been driving us to distraction. It's given the Scousers so much to laugh at, and now it would appear, according to the BBC, that we're getting the last laugh because not only has the bid been rejected, but prematurely or not prematurely, Liverpool have decided to pull out. And anyone who's seen my tweets will know what I'm on about there. Just need to explain as well, folks. And I'm only going to be on the show for 45 minutes because I've got a meeting with Stan. And those of you who do follow us on Twitter, I'll know who Stan is as well. I think I better make the most of it. It's honestly, Steve, I just can't believe what's been going on. I mean, we did our podcast yesterday, and threw a few hand grenades, made a few comments, got some really good receptions and reactions from the people who I expected would be behind us. But it just goes to show how divided just something like the activity of Liverpool over the fortnight can really undermine a fan base. And I think I find that's probably the most soul destroying of it all. I can accept players leaving. I can accept other clubs being interested in players and putting bids in. But what I can't accept is the way that our fan base, who have been probably one of the most loyal fan bases around, have been dragged through the mire, and probably not just by Liverpool, but by an element of silence, bordering on ignorance from the football club over the last couple of weeks. It's very, very disappointing from that respect. But I need to get over that, don't I? I need to step away from that sort of criticism, and I need to really do what I should be doing at this time of the year, and that's concentrating on who we're bringing in and how the season's going to go. And I said on Twitter early on that you know, I already feel like I wish this season was already over, and it hasn't even begun, and I shouldn't be feeling like that. And I feel sorry for anyone else who's in the same frame of mind at the moment. I need to shake myself out of it. We all do. But there's probably two places we can point the finger at. But the main protagonists in all this have been Liverpool Football Club and their media friends, because they've drummed this up into hysterical proportions in the last fortnight to 3 weeks. Where it leaves Alexander Isak, I'm not really bothered, because he's our player. He's here for the next 3 years, according to his contract, and he has to turn up on Monday morning, and he has to be a big lad, and he has to knuckle down. Let's see whether that happens, Steve.
Yeah, it's really, really a saga which is going to have more twists and turns. I don't think that's it. I certainly don't. Nobody with any experience supporting Newcastle United and these kind of sagas will think that's it. I guess the next move is very clearly in Mr. Isak and his agent's pocket. What do they do next? What do they do? George, the latest twist in the saga, what's your feelings on what happened today?
Nothing should surprise anybody about Newcastle United. There's been a media antipathy in the south towards Newcastle United forever. I mean, even looking at the 50s like you and I've been doing in the last few weeks, at the cup wins, you'd think we'd killed somebody with those cup wins, according to the Southern press, and same with buying players. Stan Seymour was the ace at outbidding them all when he wanted somebody. Guy called Colin Taylor from Cardiff was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And Arsenal, they all were bidding, and every time they bid, Seymour found 250 quid to stick on the top just to outdo them. He came to us in the end, but he only lasted about 6 months. So this is all grist to the mill for me. There's a tragedy though in it for me as well, and the tragedy is that a young man who's taken all the adulation, kissed the badge, and kissed anything else he could kiss up to the cup final, got on the stage and pretended he could speak Geordie, which everybody loved, and then very suddenly, a couple of weeks later, is exercising his options, looking at his options. Well, I said at the time when he said that, goodbye, end of. Because my view is, and if it's right that Liverpool have pulled out, he's painted himself into a corner. He's got to turn up on Monday, otherwise he's starting to lose money. And I'm glad that Eddie Howe's digging his heels in and saying, well, he's our player. We'll decide what happens to him. There's another slightly sad thing for me is that some of the people that are writing some of this stuff are people that I used to have a regard for as journalists. Well, they're just hacks like the rest. Looking for clickbait and looking to get a story out of nothing, or take a rise out of our fans, which is not a hard thing to do, as we know that they can get upset very, very quickly if you say the wrong thing. So the ball's very much going to be in Isak and his team court, I think, if Liverpool have pulled out. Maybe this is the time for our contacts in Saudi Arabia to do a favour. and they buy him for a lump and take him out of the firing line and give us some money to spend. Because if we could get 150 million for him, goodbye. Thank you very much. Let's use that. So so much in all one thing. But as I say, the tragedy for me all started because Alexander Isak wanted to explore his options. Well, explore them, buddy lad, but not on Tyneside, because what he's going to find out is that adulation that he gets from the Geordie nation, when it turns the other way, can be very, very sour and very bitter. And I suspect he will feel it wherever whatever shirt he pulls on after this week. So, but it's a mess, and it's upsetting to see how journalists and the fans at other clubs, see even Villa fans having a laugh this morning about what's happening. But at the end of the day, there's nobody as big as Newcastle United as far as I'm concerned, and we plod on. We plod on and do our utmost best. And the one thing we do have in our favour is that we've got a man at the helm who seems to know how to do his best and get the best out of those that's working for him. Because if that goes wrong, we're in serious trouble. But I don't think it will. I see Eddie still being quite confident about what he's about. But it's just most of it's a nonsense, but behind the nonsense is a tragedy. And having rejoiced in what's the best season in living memory, even for somebody like me who's in the upper 70 years of watching Newcastle United, it suddenly disappears in a puff of smoke. But again, that's football, isn't it? It's sad, but true. But I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm still the greedy little duck who wants things in black and white, and I'll continue to be that.
Okay, Steve in the chat can. I'll just give Steve Hasty the opportunity to explain exactly what he meant. We were chatting about this in the WhatsApp group today, Steve. But you didn't say that Ekitike was on £370,000 a week, did you?
I may have said he was on £375,000 a week. I meant to say $375,000 a week, US dollars, that is, which is a mere 284,000 at today's going rate, Steve. So sorry about that. It's certainly not 200,000 like some people are trying to claim it over in Liverpool. And I stand by the fact that with bonuses and with when you aggregate the salaries of Van Dijk and Salah and Ekitike, you are pushing up towards £1 million. There are he may be on £284,000 a week basic wage, but you can guarantee there are all sorts of bonuses that will be tucked in among that, just as they are with Salah, just as they are with Van Dijk, as they are with nearly every other footballer in the Premier League. They get sign-on bonuses, they get win bonuses, they get goals bonuses, they get bonuses for how far the team moves in the league, how well they do in all four cups, or three cups that they're playing in. The Carabao, the FA Cup, and in the case of Liverpool, the Champions League. So these guys are not poor, put it that way. But I've seen it typed, I've seen it written. It says $375,000, and I mistook the dollar sign for pounds. So if I'm guilty of anything, it's guilty of having terrible eyesight, Steve.
There we go. End of story. So I hope that clears it up for everybody who watched last night. Yeah, Joe, welcome back after your work sabbatical. What's your feelings on what's going on with Alexander Isak? I mean, obviously, we all believe that he will still leave, I think. I don't think anybody thinks that there's a chance for him to stay. I think in some way, shape or form, Alexander Isak will be playing for somebody else come the start of the new season. But what's your take on it?
We've just gone all Newcastle United again, haven't we? And I feel really, really conflicted, Steve, and emotionally. I kind of go from just get rid of him. Just if they've bid 100 million today, see you later. good riddance to bad rubbish and all that. And then I flick into, he's an absolutely outstanding footballer and he belongs to Newcastle United, so why the hell should we? I then feel a bit sorry for myself and think we were just getting there. We got the trophy, obviously. Champions League again. This was the first window with the PSR resets and previous monies and commercial monies through the Adidas kit deal, etc., that actually we had a fighting chance. And I was hoping we'd have been signing, Benjamin Sesko to play alongside Alexander Isak or to replace him after 60 minutes, not to replace him full stop. It just feels like everything's conspiring against us. We haven't sorted off the off-field issues. I know it's been mentioned, if you can believe what you've read, and we've read all sorts this last couple of weeks around Paul Mitchell's, part in all of this, promises that were allegedly made to the player and the agent that then weren't fulfilled with Mitchell leaving and the way that he conducted himself. We still haven't got a director of football, so who's pulling the strings? We still need a CEO. I still need to put a bullet in this dog because he's doing me head in. But there's
no animals were hurt on NUFC Matters. After George getting misunderstood last week, I don't want you to get misunderstood this week, Joe. So
I wasn't watching, so I'm not guilty.
I mean, you're jokingly saying this about your dog, you love. Whereas George was accused of wanting to kill Alexander Isak last week. So we'll get it all on here. It's going to become like a serial killer podcast. I've moved away from true crime.
But there is so I do apologise. The dog is excitable. But yeah, I do. I just feel a little bit disillusioned, Steve. And we've got the Champions League money came out today. There's another shirt that they want to flog us. It's like Steve Hasty said, for something that I should have been really, really, really looking forward to. I already feel like, oh man, here we go again. What did we learn from our last Champions League kind of excursions? We learned that our squad was wafer thin. We learned that our league form and our cup form was kind of affected by it. And yet here we are. Yes, Anthony Elanga's a good footballer. Fair enough. We've signed another goalkeeper because you can never have too many of them. And that's where we're at. And the football starts in a couple of weeks' time. So I just feel a bit flat with it all. But Eddie Howe has said for 3 years now that this football club or this team was built on camaraderie. It was built on, players who wanted to die for the shirt. And maybe our best footballer doesn't want to, and maybe we've got to say goodbye. I don't think it's the end. I think you like anything, you make a bid, don't you? It's like bidding for a pair of shoes on eBay. You stick a tenner in and they say no, so you go to 12 and you get what you want in the end. I don't think he'll be at Newcastle come kick off. I really don't. I would like him to go to Saudi Arabia for £220 million and we rebuild a new team. Whether that's going to be allowed, whether anybody wants to do business with us. My biggest fear is we end up with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as our new centre forward, because that's the only thing we're going to be able to do. And if we do, we get behind him as we do. But he's no Alexander Isak, and I don't think anybody in European football is at the moment. And that's my biggest worry. This was supposed to be about building. It was supposed to be about progression. And whether it's PSR, whether it's conspiracy theories, it doesn't matter what it's about. Yeah, that's right, that Mark. That's exactly what was happening. He's a big lad and all. We'll end up being weakened, and that's the one thing we can't afford to do, be weakened. So, disillusionment kicks in already, and we haven't kicked the ball yet.
Yeah, Gary, I'm not sure that's correct. There certainly wasn't anything on Craig's X account. I saw a rather dubious message getting sent around WhatsApp last night, Gary, to say that we'd had 2 confirmed. I think that was a fake, Gary. I'm not sure who knocked it up, but it was poor, to say the least. Nothing on his X account today about that, so I do not believe that at all. But we'll wait and see. Mitch, have you got Isak on the back of that top? Somebody's asking.
No, I do not. I don't have Isak on the back of any tops, thank you very much. I tell you what, this week it's been like the first time I read the Two Towers, the second book of the Lord of the Rings. when you get to all the battle scenes, and it's like, and suddenly the Raiders of Rohan came from the west, and then the Eagles swooped, and you're like, where the fuck the Eagles coming from? Hang on. And you kind of keep up with it, and everything's sort of piling in, and it's going left, right, and centre. What I do think is I think they've all overplayed their hands. I think Mr. Isak has painted himself into a corner with his little trip to Spain. I think Liverpool have got to a point where they've had to put a bid in, because I suspect somebody at our end's gone, oh, we're going to have a word with the Premier League about all the tapping up you've been doing. So put up or shut up. And I find it interesting the way the media are spinning this. Last year, when it was us trying to get Gay, Palace were lauded as holding their ground, standing out for what the player is worth. And suddenly we're being made out by some to be the bad guys. When, let's figure this one out here, Liverpool themselves have set the bar for valuation. They brought in Wirtz for 115. He's nowhere near Isak in terms of quality or goal scoring ability. They've spent 70 million on, or 75 million, round about that amount, on Ekitike, who's had one good season in Germany. Not in the Premier League, in Germany. And so, and their crazy valuations is why Chelsea are saying if they sell Nicholas Jackson, they want 70 million for him. And the lad couldn't hit 2 barn doors with a bloody banjo, let alone one. But this is on them. They've set that bar. This is their valuations. To come in today and lowball and then go away and say, oh, well, we're not going to be bidding again because of, the stance of Newcastle. Well, good. But I actually don't think they've got the money. I don't think the ducks are quite in a row to put in the kind of bid that they know they should be doing. And that's why they've had all of their friends in the media chirping, saying, well, he could be worth 220 million. No, he's not. You've set that bar with the other players you've signed, and we're quite happy to stand our ground, and I'm glad we have. And yet we're not going to get the credit for that. We're going to be made out to be the bad guys. Brilliant. And that's how paid media works. And we're probably going to go and talk a little bit more about this in a bit. But for certain, all the actors that we've talked about, the bad faith ones, the paid for ones, the ones that's going... Mark, I don't think him putting a transfer request in makes a blind bit of difference. He's fucked off to Spain without telling anybody. That's as good as a transfer request for me, and I'd like to know where he stands with the PFA if we were to turn around and say, right, there's 2 weeks' wages, fined. I don't think he'd have a leg to stand on. And so, he's for him, it was the wrong time. He's got 3 years, not 2. It gives us far more strength. For them, they don't quite have the ducks in a row. They've overpaid for Ekitike. There's other, obviously, deals they need to do to either free money up for them or to get players out, but they've had to go off half-cocked because they've been painted into a corner by their own actions, the media's actions, and Isak's actions. And this is what the media should be reporting, but they won't. And we know why. And we know why. Do I think they'll come back in? Anything's possible. What I do know is I think we've forced their hand, and I think they've genuinely cocked this one up. Where does it leave Isak? It's difficult to say. I think the strength of feeling in the fan base is very split. It's going to take a lot of ass kissing for him to get his way back in with some of the fans, that's for sure. And will he ever be believed? I think he's put himself into very dodgy ground. How do you go from Geordie accents on a stage celebrating a cup win to just down on tools in the pre-season, just like that, and say, oh, well, it's because da-di-da-di-da. I don't think really, Barry, if you look at why Cardiff are still fighting to get to not have to pay for the Argentinian striker who died in the plane crash. They'll tell you about insurance money. Insurance money covers wages. Oh, and they weren't very, and they made out they were being very gracious by saying they were going to pay the contract out to Jota's widow. Well, guess what? That's what they've got to do by law. It's a contract law, and there's insurance for that. So it wasn't an altruistic, generous decision from Liverpool while we're on, again, reported in the media like they're all holier than thou. I think genuinely they've exposed themselves. The media will choose not to see it that way. And of course we are going to be held up as the bad guys because we always were and always have been, because we know the mantra that American money is good and money from the Middle East is dodgy.
Okay, don't forget you can email us nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Lots of people have done that. We've only got Steve Hasty for another 15 minutes on the show, and as I know Steve does enjoy this section, we're going to have Tweet of the Week now. And if you're easily offended, whether you're from Newcastle, Liverpool or Timbuktu, it's probably the best time to go to the kitchen and make yourself a cuppa or grab a can from the fridge. And the reason I started this one early is because there's been a couple of lookalikes sent in, Steve. Steve, I know a lookalike isn't a general thing these days, but the individual on the right does have a passing resemblance to a much-loved contributor on the show, says Paul. Steve Hasty, George, you don't need to move
Paul,
in. This one, Alan Pardew, lookalike. When he remembers he's still got another 8 years left on his Newcastle contract. And this England flag at the under-21 game last night. It's got to be a Steve Hasty lookalike, Steve.
I'm trying to work out how Swansea City in England. I thought Swansea was in Wales.
Stop trying to deflect, Steve. That's you on the left.
I'll deflect as much as I can, Steve.
And this one, yeah, I got a lookalike from our good friend Ian, and it's Thomas Tuchel and Merlin. Thank you to Emily for that.
Very good.
Good stuff. And we have been sent in a couple of these ones as well. This one from David Cook, Nick Shaggy, and Trafford. And these combination ones still keep on coming in. Ready for this one, lads? Schmeichel Jackson.
Oh
Dear.
Oh dear.
That's the best one yet, like best one yet. I know, it's very good. Okay, prepare to be offended, lads. There are some bad ones this week. Maybe a ponytail is a bad idea. And this one, Googled in the night garden and didn't expect this to show up as a related question.
Oh dear.
Lost unicorn, if found, please stop doing drugs.
Clever.
And man arrested for putting fake arrow decals on the floor in IKEA and for creating a labyrinth with no exit. That's what IKEA is.
That was brilliant.
Thanks to Jimmy for this one. Kansas City welcomes 25 million visitors annually. Ouch. And I love these supermarkets. Alcohol storage pet. I'm biker. Biker or walker. This mice shop has gone down well with the local cats. And guys, no shirt, no service. Girls, no shirt, free drinks. 2 tier beer, lads, 2 tier beer. And this was just a shot taken in a supermarket of bread with eyes.
Oh, great.
Very good. And PP alone, PP with a surprise guest. That's a good one. And has anybody had a request from Firestick Man on Facebook? I'm sure most people who still use Facebook will have had a request from Firestick Man. But this has now started to become a thing on social media. Friend request from Firestick Man coming out of a Mars bar. If you're on Facebook, you'll get that. I'm sure many of you will have had a request from him. I went to the Oasis concert. I got a good T-shirt inside the ground. I also got a good one outside the ground. Be careful though what you buy from the dodgy merch men after the gig, especially if it's dark and you're drunk. Didn't realise until I got home, says this unlucky Oasis. And asked my husband to dry the dishes.
Oh,
Yeah.
clever.
That's ingenious, that.
That is ingenious. It is. It's the kind of thing I would do. And do you have the book on small penises? I don't think it's in yet. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah.
And though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
Oh, that's good.
This is a novel way. You know when you break up from your girlfriend, lads? I love this. Date short women, so when you break up, you can keep your pictures.
Oh, what a clever lad. Hey.
Don't say we don't tell you useful things, people, on this show. And I showed the damaged remains of my luggage to my lawyer and said, I want to sue the airline. You don't have much of a case, he replied.
Oh.
And I showed this to a friend and he didn't get it. Well, you make my dreams come true. Name the band, lads.
Tall enough.
Well done, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. That wasn't a singing one, but this is. Singer Marty Pello, diagnosed with arthritis. He told the Daily Dafty, I feel it in my fingers. I feel it
in my bones.
No, it's toes, George, not bones. Anyway, Chewbacca when he was in 5th grade. And another Star Wars one. Brilliant post box. What a post box. And cheers, Jimmy. Keep them Star Wars coming. One's coming. A couple of Star Trek ones to balance it up. How come you never blink when we have sex? I don't have time, she said.
Ouch.
And this one. What are you laughing at? Mountains. You think mountains are funny? Yes, they're hilarious.
Oh. Cut and pick off.
More lads, for sale by owner, complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica, 45 volumes, excellent condition, no longer needed. Got married last month, wife knows everything. And do men look at their wife's face during sex? There's Xavier again. I did once and she looked very angry. She was looking from the window.
Xavier, man.
And in a recent boxing match, how is it fair that Isak was allowed to wear Stone Island? Once Dubois saw the badge, what chance did he have? I did like that one. Tickled us a bit. Guns don't kill people. Dads with pretty daughters do. So what do dads of ugly daughters do? Ask your dad, was the reply.
Christ.
Walked into that pit. And does it bother you when your fur is dirty with poo? The bear asks the rabbit. No.
No.
Oh.
And shamalama ding dong.
Oh.
God.
Jesus.
Couple of jokes.
Get any better.
A scammer called me grandma and said he had all her passwords. She got a pen and paper and said, "Thank God for that. What are they?"
Yeah, just grandma up me as well.
My local hairdressers have a bald asthmatic scuba diver who lives in their basement. He has to keep coming up for hair.
Oh, man.
And my wife said, I can think of 14 reasons to leave you, plus your obsession with tennis. I replied, that's 15, love.
Oh.
We'll like a bit of viz on here. Here we go. A condom filled with expanding foam makes a tasty alternative to a vegan sausage.
Chodbury.
Harry biscuits, Chodbury on sea. And am I the only one that can see Mitch here in Bobby Robson, says Alan Little. That's a good comparison, Mitch.
I'll take that every day of the week. Like,
There you go, Bobby Robson. It's a new one. And boy who had sex with his teacher tells jury it's every lad's fantasy. The reply from Kane was very simple. I had sex with my English teacher when I was in school. I told my dad when I got home, and he offered to buy me a new bike as a congratulations present. But I asked him if I could have a football instead because my arse was killing me. Not very often I get through them, but that is a good one. And Gillette, lads, the best a man can get.
oh God.
The bedtime reading, the Ladybird Book of Outdoor Garden Design. And Funeral Kazoo, drown out sobs and wails better than bagpipes. Great for kids, comforting sound.
Sorry for your loss, it says at the bottom.
It's a cat picture. We like a cat picture. That's brilliant. I'm sure they placed the cat in there, by the way. I'm sure it didn't just hop in that box. And what archaeologists will find in 500 years' time, lads? Very true. Lads. Very true. Look, a flock of elephants. Heard of elephants? Of course I've heard of elephants. There's a whole flock of them over there. Top two, Waterstones toilets. I do like these ones. People send us these all the time. That's the first time I had an original one. Look at the bloke at the bottom. That's just how you feel now getting up them stairs in whatever Waterstones you go to. We'll finish up with a song to cheer everyone up. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. There we go. That's for all the Scousers who've tuned in tonight. If you've got any tweets, send them to our email. It's very simple. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, or send us something on Twitter, now called X, @stevewraith. Probably not today. I won't say it for all the Scousers who've managed to get in touch with us. Okay, we've only got about 7 minutes left with Steve, so we will come back to Steve first for just listen. I want to know what your situation is with Isak before we move on tonight, because we've got some other stuff to talk about. How do you feel, Steve, about Alexander Isak now? Is he beyond playing for Newcastle again? Is that the end? Will we ever see him play in a black and white shirt again? What do you think? If you had to predict what's going to happen in the next 7 days, what do you reckon?
I think, let's see, where are we heading with him? I think I don't have a problem with Alexander Isak's. If he stays at Newcastle United, I'll get behind him. He'll be one of our players. Sorry about that. Somebody trying to ring us, mate. I have no problem with that aspect of it. He's one of our players. He's still there on the first game of the season. He's wearing a black and white shirt. He's probably the best striker in the country, I think, and I'll be quite happy to still have him wearing the black and white shirt. That's the way I look at it. I look at this. I look back on this 2 to 3 weeks as an absolute mess. I'll point the finger probably on a number of directions, but I'll probably quickly get over it if he's still wearing the black and white shirt. That's the way I'm seeing it. I think Newcastle United are better with an Alexander Isak in the team than we are without him. We're certainly better with an Alexander Isak than we are with him gone and nobody coming in to replace him. And let's face it, we're now, if we are looking at various names and some of the names that are being bandied around, we're now on our 8th, 9th and 10th choice of strikers. And we're gradually running out of the quality that Newcastle United need. We've got a long, hard season to come. We're in the Champions League, and without putting too fine a point on it, we will be in a far better position with Alexander Isak than we will be without him. It's annoying that we've had to go through this. Do we, as I said last night, do we go back as far as the previous October before or July when Amanda allegedly made promises to him that his contract would be reviewed and there was a new contract on the up? Do we look at the situation when Paul Mitchell arrived and he started having a pop at our whole transfer activity? And then apparently upset Alexander Isak by saying whatever Amanda had told him, he could forget about it. He had a 3-year contract or more than 3-year contract, and he had to stick with it. And there would be no change. Now, this is all purely what I'm picking up from articles written by prominent newspaper people, so we've got to take it as God's truth. Then do I then say, right, well, what happened at the end of the season? Did he, were there then more false promises made? How did the situation materialize with Mitchell leaving? Then I'd look at the football club and say, what were your plans when Mitchell left? Because he left very, very quickly. But what was the succession planning? What are you planning that way? I'd look at Andy Howe and Steve Nixon and saying, if I was at the top of the tree of my football club, would I say those are guys who are experienced enough to not only identify, which is what their job is, but also to negotiate transfers with people who are basically sharks and very good at their job in the agents of footballers, people who are there to take football clubs' eyes out. And do we have anyone of the caliber that can compete with those guys, can match them, and counterbalance the negotiation position? It's sadly looking as though we don't. I'd also question, how is it that the targets that we're going for, we're getting them built up and built up and built up, and then all of a sudden the carpet's being pulled from under our feet? Is that our inexperience, or is there another motive behind that? Is there other people at work behind the scenes that are jeopardizing our transfer activity? Then I'd question the people in PIF who Mr. Ramayan has put into position as his eyes and ears, because quite frankly, their role is to report back to him and be telling them everything that's supposed to be going on at that football club, every aspect, every problem, keeping him in tune, keeping him with an understanding of how his football club that he is sitting at the top of working, what any issues are, where the issues are coming. They should be able to identify the issues before they start. That's what they're qualified for. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them have any football experience. As great business people, but sometimes business people also need a little bit of football acumen. And I think football business is different to business when you're selling ships or when you're dragging up oil from the ground, or when you're on a trading floor or working on a trading platform, dealing with other people's money. I think that's totally different, and I think you need to have that experience, because not only are you dealing with footballers, football agents, but you're dealing with the heart and soul of a region, and you're dealing with fans who are living their life through their football club, and that's an added pressure, an added burden, but also an added responsibility. So I would be looking at that. I'd be looking at Jamie. Jamie's got his guy in Roger Thornton in on the boardroom, and surely Jamie was told that there are issues with Alexander Isak and his contract, because it sounds to me, from what I've picked up from very, very respectable press people, that the players knew about this last summer. They knew about it when we came back last year, but they knew that Alexander Isak had been told by Amanda in the July that there would be a new contract in the offing. They knew that the way that he felt as though he'd been treated by Paul Mitchell, and yet it's been allowed to fester. Nobody's nipped it in the bud. Nobody got him around the table, I presume, because his angst was still there, even after the cup final, even after the words that were said. Or perhaps after the cup final, when he was saying all those things, he then went back in and said, "Who knows?" That's what when you look at it from a distance, you begin to think, and you go, "Well, he was so happy after the cup final. He was, as you said, his Geordie accent was coming on a ton. He was so happy to be part of a winning squad, part of history at Newcastle United." And then something changed from that moment in his head to the moment when he said to somebody in the club, and we don't know who, that he wanted to explore his possibilities for the future. So there's a lot of questions that need answering internally. I don't think we'll ever know what the answers are going to be, but I think there's a lot of internal retrospection that needs to take place. And then exactly, Anthony Gordon, we've just read in one of the papers a great interview with Anthony Gordon. It also shows that last summer, when we were hearing about Anthony Gordon and the Liverpool situation and PSR, and when we talked about how upset he was and the way that he was being treated when he was away with England, and we mentioned at the time about how he was in daily contact with Eddie Howe, because mentally he felt shot and felt let down after getting what was basically 7 minutes, if that, playing for England, and being dragged in front of the press at times as well, when none of the other England players were either willing or able to do so. And then he never got another look in under Southgate. And he's admitted how it affected him mentally. So, these are, and we've seen the impact of that on his season. What we've got to hope is that everything can be resolved, and if Alexander Isak is staying at Newcastle United, that mentally he doesn't go through the trauma that Anthony Gordon's obviously gone through this season. Perhaps we need a psychiatrist in there to help him get over this blip in his career, because we want a fully operational Alexander Isak firing on all cylinders next season if he's going to be with us.
Okay, Steve, conscious of the time, thanks very much for taking part tonight, mate. Great show as well last night, by the way. We've had some great feedback on Ask Hasty, which, of course, we're going to be doing a lot of these Ask shows throughout the season. So great to have you on. But enjoy work, mate, if you can, and look forward to seeing you. It'll be probably Wednesday for the Amigos next week, but I will confirm, mate. Take care.
Great. Thanks very much. Have a good evening, lads. Ta-ra.
See you, Steve.
Yes, mate.
Okay, we are going to move on, and we're going to move on to an email which Mitch has been privy to along with Steve. I really just wanted them to dig deep into this. It was from Alan Little. He sent us an email via his missus's account, actually, after subscribing to the fanzine. And he said, I came across a couple of articles while looking up our chairman, which has got me worried the more I thought about it. The first article, I had my doubts because of where it was written. NUFC fans against sports washing. They got it from Intelligence Online. I'll send the links, which he duly did. Could there be any truth in this? Could this be the explanation for the mess behind the scenes at Newcastle? Because I'm racking my brains and nothing else seems to make any sense, especially with PIF being our owners. The lack of news on the stadium, no new training ground, CEO, sporting director, the deafening silence from the club, to name just a few problems. I don't believe for 1 minute in normal circumstances that PIF would think this is an acceptable way to run the football club. I'd love to hear your views, and Mitch's and Stu's and Steve's and everybody at NUFC Matters. Also, thanks for all your hard work on keeping NUFC Matters the great channel it is. Thank you for that, Alan and Sheila. Mitch, you did do a bit of digging on the links that were sent over.
Yeah.
I'll post one of them in the chat anyway, just so people can have a little look at what he's talking about. But what did you find, and what's your views on what you found?
The key one here is obviously the source where it comes from, the no Saudi Toon fans, or fan really. It's really just John Hurd, isn't it? Let's be honest. There's not a massive group of them, and it's certainly not many Newcastle fans. John, I find an interesting character, having it's well known that he worked in Saudi for a while. And like many expats who leave this region, sometimes because they've had to, and sometimes they end up being quite bitter towards the reasons they've had to leave the region. I don't know what the circumstances are, but it does seem quite contrary. This is all tied in, really, with what I've been trying to tell you for the last month or so. Now, all the geopolitical games we suffered during the takeover never really went away. And they all have ways to come back in one way, shape, form or another. And I find it interesting that they've used Intelligence Online as a source. Intelligence Online is one of 4 publications by a French-based publisher called Indigo. And when you dig into Indigo, and then when you're able to use contacts, particularly press contacts that I have here in the Middle East, which is why I know Ben Jacobs of old, for example. I've got quite a few good friends in the media here. And so when I asked them to talk about a few things, a couple of them shrugged their shoulders, never heard of them, but one of them pointed us in a couple of directions with Indigo. They're French-based. They have 4 publications. They're mainly aimed at the Francophone regions of Africa and the Middle East. So sort of particularly North Africa and into Central Africa and places like Cameroon, but then across into the Levant, so sort of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, that kind of area. They're a very curious publication. Intelligence Online sounds very, well, it's intelligence and it's highbrow. They currently have 4 outstanding lawsuits for defamation. And the lawsuits are all the same. They're based around putting articles behind a paywall and then writing a sensational headline which bears no relation to the actual content of the article they're in. And they've currently got 4 articles like that which are outstanding. One of whom is from a company here in the UAE whose reputation were nearly destroyed by this publication, based on a headline, not on the article, but just on the headline. And this is where you have to be careful where you get your info and how you share it. The headline in question also talks about Saudi scaling back projects like the line and reducing foreign investment. And it hints that Newcastle United might be sold, which couldn't be further from the truth. One thing anybody knows in this region when they talk about vanity projects like the line, about 90% of them never come to fruition. And of the 10% that do, only about half of them go to full fruition. Most of them get scaled back in the end and they die a death in the corner. And if you want a great example, Burj Khalifa, big tower in Dubai, was originally going to be called the Burj Dubai until Dubai ran out of money, and then they had to ask Abu Dhabi for some money to help them finish it. And part of the conditions of them bailing Dubai out was you call it what we wanted to be called, not what you wanted to be called. And that's a classic example of a vanity project that came to fruition, but by God, it needed a bit of help to get over the line. And that's not unusual in this region at all. Newcastle United have a set budget. We're part of the long-term investment plan of Saudi Arabia for Vision 2030. There's a budget in place for the much longer term. But then it got a bit more interesting when I was told that Indigo Publishing, the owners of them are both, or one of them at least, is on the red list for travel to the Gulf. That would mean if they landed in either the UAE, Saudi, Qatar, Bahrain, they'd be arrested the minute they got off the plane. And that's because there's suggested connections between Intelligence Online and certain intelligence agencies here in the Middle East and terrorist organisations such as Hezbollah. And is that where you're getting your information from? Is that how you're happy to push your information? You're that desperate to put something negative out about Newcastle United? You'll share something that's got links to Hezbollah? Choose your God or your devil, isn't it? And, you know, when you're wanting to write articles that are anti-Newcastle and you're coming at it from a point of view, certain political point of view, I mean, again, the individual question lists Trotsky as one of his heroes. That would be Trotsky of the Red Terror, which was a genocide, by the way. But that's another matter, and it's not really a political show, is it? But, you know, this is where we're at. There's still geopolitics playing out, and it's all to tug at heartstrings of the Newcastle United fans and to try and make us feel guilty for who our owners are. The other connection that Indigo has is with another company in Canada called Indigo, who have also been linked with terrorist organisations in Canada, would you believe? This is how deep these things go. This is how absolutely intertwined some of these things are. And once you start to dig into them, particularly in this region, it gets very complicated very quickly, and suddenly it's a different ballgame. Newcastle United is going to be used as a political football in many ways, shapes and form. And it's been used as such once again. And whoever's touting that article as good source of information needs at the very least to know this is a publication with 4 outstanding lawsuits of defamation based on the sensationalist headlines. That should be enough to make you stop and think before you add the different stuff on top.
Great stuff. Thank you for researching that. I knew you wouldn't let us down, and I hope that answers Alan Little and Sheila Little's question, which I'm sure it does. Okay, we are only going to do a short show tonight. As you know, it's usually about an hour and 40, hour and 45. We'll have a quick ad break. We'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk, email info@mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatters.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatters.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, don't forget, you have a month to order the fanzine. 56 people have subscribed to next season's. Ideally, we want to get to 100. And it is simple. Go to nufcmatters.co.uk, our website, and place your order. 4 issues for £25. That includes your postage. They will be sent out throughout the season. All proceeds going to Age UK North Tyneside, and it goes towards the dementia section. So please subscribe if you haven't already. As always, plenty to get through on this show, and time for a very special photograph to be shown in the section where a lot of people do tend to complain about the music that we play for it. And some people are saying that we should change the music, but I think we'll keep it. The day I met, where we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle past or present, and Mark Byers has sent this in. He said, It was an absolute pleasure to meet this living legend, George. Made his trip, George. It made his trip. And you were pleased to see him as well, weren't you?
It was great. It was a good night. I mean, it wasn't, there wasn't hundreds there, but it was a great night. Some good crack. Good look at the cup final again, and people, friends able to reminisce and share information and all the rest of it. It was really good. Presenters, moderators, all mixed in together. So yes, that was great. And thanks, Mark, for the compliment. I do appreciate it. It was a lovely night, and helped by the fact that people were so kind. And I just kind of to what Steve just said about the fanzine. For goodness sake, support the fanzine. It's a great charity, and Steve's done all the work to get a sponsor to print it. For goodness sake, don't let's fail it. Sign up to it and as quick as you can.
Thanks, George. If you want to submit a photograph for the day I met you meeting somebody from Newcastle, we are running probably about 20 left, so we've still got quite a few left. But if you've got one, you want to share it and be on the show on a Friday night, nufcmatterspodcast@1892@gmail.com is where to send it, and I can play this wonderful music. Thanks to Tino for the donation. We've already discussed Isak at the start of the programme. I think we all said that it's going to be an interesting twist and turn. I genuinely don't think we'll see him play for Newcastle again, Tino. I think it's gone beyond that now. I think, as everybody said, I think he's pushed himself into a particularly dark place now. And, listen, whether you agree with what banners and things that people have done or not, it's the emotional attachment that fans, young or old, make to a certain player. And somebody like Isak, who is a goal scorer, and goal scorers are revered up here. It's such an emotional subject, and I just think it's gone beyond that. Will he perform on the pitch for his next team? I would imagine so, but I genuinely will be very surprised if we kick off with him up front. It's such a sad end to what could have been such a wonderful partnership. It's just very, very up. But I didn't want you to donate and not at least, say that we'd actually had your money and not commented. I did like this from Stu Allen earlier as well. Now it's clear Liverpool can't afford Isak after signing Tik. The move to sign him to block him from joining us seems bizarre. Some power play that. And we thought our board was amateur. Interesting take, Stu. Obviously, they've got other players that they're trying to sell. Will be interesting to see whether they come back before the end of the window and try and unsettle them. I guess what this does, and we can look at this in 20 different ways, but it gives Newcastle United an opportunity to try and bring in an adequate replacement. Not Dominic Calvert-Lewin, not Jamie Vardy, not re-sign Callum Wilson. It gives us an opportunity to bring Sesko in or another of his type. And if we do, Liverpool coming back in, if they've managed to get rid of Núñez and open the money to 150 million plus, which is more like it for Newcastle, maybe a deal might still be done before the transfer window. But I think we'll go into the start of the new season, hopefully with somebody else wearing the number 9 shirt. That's my hope anyway. Let's move on. Sponsorships. James Slater says, George, at least it's not all bad guys. We finally brought in a much needed commercial partnership with Guinness. Forgive us if I'm not sitting here with a pint of Guinness. I don't drink Guinness anyway, but again, for me, George, the one thing that I thought, as we are all sitting waiting for news about incomings and what's happening with Isak, etc., the club are pumping out another strip and, pushing this out as if it's somebody that's going to get with 20 goals. I found it a little bit hard to take. I've got to be perfectly honest.
Well,
I couldn't celebrate.
The last 2 or 3 things I've found hard to take. Never mind that one, because there's nothing substantial. There's no gravitas about what's happening in terms of sponsorship or anything else commercial at the moment. It's all just about soaping the fans. I've rejoiced in the takeover as much, if not more, than many people because of what it means to me football club. But the one area where they've failed miserably, in my view, is in dealing with issues that concern the fans, and this is one of them where if you invent another strip and you get another wad of money, well, but that wad of money's not going to buy an Alexander Isak. It's not even going to buy his bloody boots for a year. Never mind his feet and his legs to play for. So it's trivia. It worst, and it also is. It's close on taking us for mugs, which Newcastle United have never done in the past. Not even Ashley took us for mugs, I've got to say. So it's just frustrating as well. It's frustrating because when you look around the place, the area, even this area, never mind abroad, to see what's happening. Surely there are things that people could pick up. I mean, I listen to what Neil and Stu say on a Sunday sometimes about sponsorships and the ideas they have. Even if, just pro tem until we get all these big things happening. Yes, nobody wants to sponsor an old stadium, but surely pro tem on a cutback deal, it would be worth 3-4 years until the new stadium's up and running, on the basis that they do something else afterwards. So if that's one area where, if the chairman's here at the moment, I hope that's one area where he's been sitting down in an office with Silverstone and saying, not good enough. And it's as I say, it verges on what they're doing at the moment on taking fans as mugs, and Newcastle United have never been known for that, in my opinion. Not even when Ashley was here. So disappointing, Steve, is the best way I can describe it.
I mean, it's more revenue coming in, Joe. I don't want to appear to be too negative. I just think it's the timing of it, and the club haven't. I did check before we came on air. The club hadn't put it out on their website. They hadn't put it out initially. This story was run by the Evening Chronicle. It's something which is clearly broken, on the tour, and they've decided to run with the story. I noticed that it, as I'm going through the Chronicle website now, it seems to have worked itself further down. But what's your take on it? It's basically Newcastle United dropped major new sponsorship deal with Guinness in money spinning tie-up. Apparently, it's a 3-year deal, a commercial deal. Doesn't really go into much more detail about it. It just says it's another commercial deal, but it almost makes me feel as if this has been done for a reason. We are still working away behind the scenes on things, kind of thing. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it's revenue, Steve. It's money, so that can only be a good thing. Is it going to be revolutionary amounts of money that we were all hoping for? And I think we were expecting kind of socks sponsors and corner flag sponsorships, and certainly big ticket items like the training ground, for example. You got to look at places like Manchester City who pretty much sponsor everything. There are ways round PSR if you chase these deals, and I think my assumption was Aramco would be involved by now, and Saudi Airlines and all these massive companies that PIF have dealings with, and it hasn't materialised yet. And I do say yet, but hesitantly say yet, because surely if it was a thing and it was a possibility, we would have done it and we'd be reaping the rewards now. And maybe Alexander Isak demanding £325,000 a week, maybe we might have been in a position to offer him that, but we're not. So we are still a million miles behind these guys with the massive sponsorship deals and all the rest of it. So I scratch my head a little bit as to why people aren't lining up to sponsor us. It makes me scratch my head a little bit about why then people aren't lining up to sign for us. It makes me scratch my head a little bit about why no one's lining up in the boardroom to come and communicate with us. And there is something about being able to read the room. I mean, the last 2 kits that we've launched, Alexander Isak, I don't think, or he was actually the blue one, but this away kit it's telling that Alexander Isak, you know, he hasn't been on any of the trips. He's injured to all intents and purposes, and yet he wasn't there wearing the new Adidas strip. He hasn't. I don't think he's been wearing kind of the new training kits that we seem to launch every other week. You've got to get your big players, you've got to get your superstars kind of modelling this stuff if you want to sell it. And I think as a fan base, you know, it's great if you can afford it, but you get sick of it, don't you? We've got this kind of turmoil going on at the club, but the way we'll deal with it is launch another training kit that you'll all look dead fancy in. And it doesn't quite wash with me, because actually we need substance. We don't just need churn out more. And, you know, it's almost like put another kit out, put another goalkeeper shirt out, and it'll get the fans looking over there, and it kind of deflects from the issues that we're faced with. So I think commercially and from a communications perspective, I would hope those two departments went hand in hand and spoke to each other. My worry is they don't. And I think Peter Silverstone brought in specifically to look at bringing corporate sponsorship in. Yes, we got an Adidas deal. Fantastic. But Liverpool have just signed another 100 million or whatever it was sponsorship deal with Adidas, haven't they? You know, the massive kit deals that Manchester United and Arsenal get. And yes, we're not there, but we do sell a lot of shirts. And maybe we've been sold a little bit short with the Adidas deal as well. So if you bring a top executive in who I'm guessing is on top money and his job is to bring in sponsorship, and outside of Adidas, Guinness and a couple of advertising hoardings that we've sold, and Seller, obviously, that's all we've done. So what are you doing to earn your money? And I agree with George, if Yasser Al-Rumayyan's here now and we're having some sort of crisis summit, surely Peter Silverstone goes up against the wall, you know, and has to justify the seemingly lack of investment, because it's not good enough. You know, we can't fill the stadium, but surely we can sponsor a corner flag. You know, surely we can sponsor the training ground. Surely we can do the things that the other football clubs can do to bring money in. You know, we haven't got a 70,000 seater stadium that'll generate that revenue yet. So what is it that we can do to think outside the box and actually get us on a closer par with these people? So there's a lot of people, isn't there, on the board that potentially need to need to stand up and be counted a little bit and justify the money that they're earning. We're really, really quick to pick on the footballers when they're not performing, and we say, bloody 80 grand a week for that. What are these execs earning, and what actually are we seeing for that return? You know, so I am a bit disappointed with it, Steve. I did think we'd play to our strengths a little bit, and having owners like PIF who've allegedly got, you know, invested in all sorts of companies all over the planet, and yet all we get is a little bit of Seller. It feels a little bit short. So, you know, over to you, Mr. Silverstone. We've been waiting to hear from him from a long time, and Darren Eales, and they're nowhere to be seen. So, yeah, I'll just add it to my other list of frustrations at the moment, I think.
You've got a sponsor for your dog's lipstick from Mark Byers, though. I'm not sure what that means. I never realised dogs...
He's all right now. He's having a sleep now. He's fine. He's, bless him.
Mitch... Wow, yeah, just another. It's supposed to be positive news, really. You know, it is more income coming in, but it's nothing groundbreaking, is it?
It's really difficult because, you know, I say the criticism they get for the strip launches and for the lad in the social media department who come up with a great idea for a new font, and then, of course, we get humped 4-0 off Celtic and everybody takes the piss out of for it. And all these things have to go on as normal, no matter what's happening off the pitch. So to an extent, it's very difficult to sort of stop all of that or rein all of that in. Yes, they could read the room better, but some of these things have to go on as normal. This kind of sponsorship is the kind of low-hanging fruit that we should have bloody loads of, in my opinion. I'm sure with Guinness it'll be to promote the alcohol-free brand, which is where they seem to product place with most sports now. And I think that's, you know, that's a great idea. Yes, well, I think the only other club that they have an agreement with is Arsenal. So there you go, we're pulling in that kind of agreement. But if you look at, say, for example, Spurs this week announced a dog food partnership, an official dog food. Interesting way they're to do that while they're on a tour of South Korea, but that's another matter. But if this is true, they have launched an official dog food partner, which will have a degree of income along with, you know, Man United, who've got an official tractor partner. You know, all of these things are the low-hanging fruit that we should be gobbling up as much as we can, because they all add up. Yes, it's not an earth-shattering deal with Guinness. It's not going to move the dial much. But if we had 20 of them, you know, if we had an official wet arse wipe partner and an official, you know, an official monkey wrench partner, you know, and all of that, these things add up, and that's what I think frustrates. I think particularly gets Stu wound up, because, you know, I know how his brain works with stuff like that, you know, and so he sees, the salesman in him sees opportunities to sell Newcastle United on a global platform in as many different ways as possible, you know, and when you see other clubs with sort of these almost unusual partnerships, you know, or official tea and crumpet partner, it's sort of bizarre, but these all add up and they all make a difference when it comes to adding the numbers up at the end, you know, and I think this is what we should be. The word from the commercial department is, what, without Champions League football, we're a harder sell than with. Now we have got for Champions League football, therefore suddenly as a Guinness partnership comes along. What gets me is it even works even better when we're not shooting ourselves in the foot and allowing situations to develop like we have with Alexander Isak. It works better, and I'm sure it's an easier sell for the commercial department, when Newcastle United control all the narratives around Newcastle United.
Yeah.
And the void that we have is inevitably linked with all of this. And it's why the lad in the social media department gets pelters for his new font idea. It's why the club get pelters, because, God, you've released a pair of trainers and 2 sets of kit. Can we not have a signing, please? All of these things were going to be done anyway. That's the club functioning normally, as normally as a football club as we can. We should be, you know, grateful that we can do that. But that's what makes it frustrating for me, that I do think we're not inventive enough when it comes to partnerships like that. You know, why don't we have an official airline partner? Why don't we have, even if it's not Saudi or Riyadh Air, surely there's other people in there somewhere that we could take on. And, you know, as an airline partner, Oman Air was suddenly at Chelsea, then suddenly they weren't again. You know, these things come and go. Chelsea are the masters of the curious short-term partnerships and bending the rules of PSR to suit. Because I know fine well when that sponsorship with Damac was announced for the end of last season, the numbers they quoted were quote-unquote to include the World Club Championship. Then, lo and behold, they couldn't use the Club World Championship because FIFA said, no, you can't, because they weren't on your script when you qualified for the Club Championship. But I'm telling you now, I bet those figures haven't been adjusted for PSR reasons with the Premier League when they've taken that money off Damac. You bet they haven't. And it'll not be questioned, it'll not be judged. And so these things are really frustrating when you see stuff like that happening, and we just seem to be glacially slow and not innovative enough.
Steve, there was something I was going to raise if we're talking about this. Is just the other day, there's somebody, a neighbour of mine, who's very big at the Falcons, and the Falcons have just been bought by Red Bull. Now, what he says that one of the reasons that Red Bull were interested was they were buying into the Newcastle brand. Well, we're not even related to the Falcons, yet the Falcons have managed to get Red Bull, you know.
You're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, good point, George. We're going to finish with one more question. I just want to get this quote in from Jake. He says, we were probably 3 or 4 players away from challenging for the Premier. I really can't understand why Isak has ruined his legacy with the club and the fans. Partly Newcastle's fault for not acting quicker with the new contract, but I don't really want to see Isak in a black and white shirt again. Yeah, it's certainly got fans talking this year.
His road to redemption is a lot harder than he probably thinks for a growing, seemingly, section of the fan base. And that, again, puts Newcastle United in a lose-lose situation, and that's not our fault. Yes, it's partly self-inflicted from the club's fault, but the people responsible outside of that just don't understand what they've done.
Yeah. If, like Jake, you're watching on X tonight, please jump over to YouTube, search NUFC Matters, and just hit the subscribe button. It is free. We do 7 shows a week, and we do welcome fans from other clubs as long as they're respectful in the chat. Always good to have supporters on from other clubs, including Liverpool. But please be respectful in the chat. Mark Byers, we give you the final question to finish off your trip across to Newcastle again. He said, do the panel think it's time to hear from the chairman again, George?
Yes.
And what would you like him? And what would you like him to say?
Tell us why he keeps saying that he wants us number 1. I've not seen anything in the last year other than us winning a trophy that points us in the direction of being number 1. And after this last fortnight, people are, they're not talking about winning anything or doing anything this season. They're so depressed. I'm not actually. I still think we'll do quite well. But so yes, if nothing, just to calm the nerves, calm the situation, and actually demonstrate that somebody's in charge. At the moment, apart from Eddie Howe, there isn't anybody. And I find it interesting that Howe and Nixon are getting it in the neck as well about all sorts of things. Well, in fact, that's not their pay grade. The people above that pay grade who should be doing things. So please tell us what's happening behind the scenes and give us enough confidence that you're in charge.
Should Eddie Howe maybe head back from Korea earlier? Stephen Chow suggested this on X earlier to me today. Maybe leave Tyndall in charge of the Spurs game and Howe head back. I know technology is wonderful these days, and you can jump onto a computer, but face to face really for this situation is what's needed. Should he come back for it?
If there's a purpose in coming back, and that purpose is to do a face to face with Alexander Isak or Uncle Tom Cobley and all, or even it's just to sit down and tell us what's going on would be useful. But at the end of the day, it's about whoever he talks to. It's about persuading that person that there's something different. And I honestly can't see what difference he's going to make. Isak's painted himself into a corner, in my view, and getting him out of that corner is going to be very difficult, war kid. Just to coin a phrase. It's a good thought, but I would rather it was the chairman that was sitting there saying, Newcastle's going to be number 1 because we haven't heard that. We've heard the statement. We've not seen the narrative. We've not seen what goes with the statement, and that's quite sad. I said it earlier. The other side that frustrates me about the takeover is that I've been cheerleader of the takeover and helped to make videos and all God knows what. But I've got to say, the one bit of the takeover that's been a shambles for me is the way they deal with the fans. The chairman should know something about that, for goodness sake. So, yeah, let's see him and let's see why he thinks he's going to make Newcastle United number 1. Because at the moment, we're looking like number 1 in the comic cuts.
Okay. Would you like to hear from the chairman, Joe? And if so, what would you like to hear the chairman say?
Yeah, of course. So, to be honest with you, Steve, does it have to be the chairman? I mean, to hear from somebody would be nice. That isn't Eddie Howe that constantly gets wheeled out, and he is a master of the presses. You know, he's so articulate and so well spoken and very cautious in some of his responses, rightly so, I guess. But he's the one that's always getting out there to kind of face the music, isn't he? I think it would show fantastic leadership if Yasser Al-Rumayyan said, right, you lot, this is what we're doing about the CEO. This is the plan for the director of football. We know we've talked about a new stadium. This is where we're at with it. We know we've talked about, a new centre forward and a Champions League winning side. This is the plan. This is the intention. You know, they can't go into detail because you would never share your dirty linen in public. No organisation does. But actually, even from a PR perspective, I started off today saying I feel really despondent when this was supposed to be the best summer we'd had possibly ever, arguably. So come out and reassure me then, because as a customer of, as a customer of your football club, I'd like to know what's going on. What's your plan? What is the intention? Where are we going? Are we happy with, well, you've just won a trophy, you lot, so what's your problem? You're in the Champions League for the second time in 3 seasons. What's your problem? What more do you want? I hope that's not the case, because this was about building and this was about progression, wasn't it? And when he's there saying we want to be number one, I was cock a hoop. We've never heard anybody say that before. John Hall had a little go, I guess. But yeah, what does that actually mean? What's the plan? What is the process? I've had pelters in the past. Distrust the process. What is the process? What are we doing? What can we expect? Were we only ever going to sign Aaron Ramsdale and Anthony Elanga this summer? Is that what we were doing? Or actually was this about, not only are we going to play in the Champions League, we're going to compete in the bloody thing. And I agree with the comment that was made. I honestly believe that 3 or 4 more Sandro Tonali's in that squad, we'd have been right up there challenging. And I'm not being a delusional Newcastle United fan as we get accused of. I genuinely mean that. I think you stick some more international footballers in there with the magic touch that Eddie Howe's got. Who knows where we'd have ended up? But here we are frustrated. Here we are really worried that the season's going to kick off, and all we've done is signed 1 or 2 players and caused a riot at board level and caused a riot within the squad. So this is where leaders earn their money. And if he's the main man, if he's the number one, just come out and tell us. Come out and tell us what the plan is, because at the moment it's starting to feel a little bit rudderless again. And I wasn't expecting that when these guys took over, because what I was expecting was that everything would be done properly. And the one thing they're not doing is offering me any reassurance at all as to kind of, where we're going. So, yeah, I'd gratefully appreciate him coming out, I think.
Okay, Stu Penman has just sent us a message in the WhatsApp group that we share, saying, regarding Yasser, action speaks louder than words. Silence is golden. You don't buy a dog and bark yourself. Hashtag Saudi rulebook. So just giving us a little bit of wisdom from that side of the world is Stuart. And I tell you what, lots of comments in the chat about Amanda. Amanda this, Amanda that. Steve said last night he wouldn't be surprised if Amanda returned in some capacity. And boy, do we need somebody to communicate like that. And we won't have time to deep dive into it, Mitch, but also the Lee Ryder. Give credit to Lee Ryder for his interview with Anthony Gordon, and credit to Anthony Gordon for a wonderful interview and a wonderfully refreshingly honest interview about what happened with him last summer. And I think it explained a hell of a lot, because we all said he's not himself. Is he tired? He looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder, but he's gone through the same processes as Isak is going through now, although completely different circumstances, but still transfer central. But yeah, combine all of that with an answer to the question which I set the other lads, which is, should the chairman come out and speak?
The one thing the chairman making some sort of positive comment would do would calm a lot of people down who are still, and there's 2 or 3 in particular I see every day, Piff have thrown in the towel, they're not interested, they've given up. You have absolutely no evidence to say that. However, it would be nice to have some more evidence to contradict that with, to sort the mess out, to get some signings underway, get the right people in place who can then tell us what the plan is and what the layout is. That doesn't have to come from the chairman per se. We're in a very curious situation, almost of our own doing, with a void that needs filled, and it's clear that void needs filled. I think you're right about excellent interview with Anthony Gordon. I think Kieran Trippier's made a few very insightful comments when he's been asked on this tour as well, and mature comments at that. And another one, keen to say, Alex has got my number, he just needs to ring it. Very interesting. But Stu's also right in that we need action now, more than words. Because some people won't believe the words.
Yeah.
We need to see, definite action. And that's partly also on Isak. He can say anything he wants from here, but how many people will believe it? There's only really action. And visibly seeing change, positive change, will bring him back for some. He's not got a way back for some, I don't think. But something to just calm some nerves and get some genuine, the positivity that's been there is pretty much petered out. The honeymoon period is most definitely over. And we said they would have a long honeymoon period, and they have. I think they've had a very long honeymoon period. I think they made mistakes, and they're not too distant past that. Probably have they made those same mistakes now that they've got a lot more pelters. But I think everybody was quite happy that it just wasn't like Ashley anymore still. I think we need evidence that this mess is being sorted out and is going to be sorted out ahead of the window closing, and that we're going to have direction and focus. And Eddie's going to have an opportunity to add to the squad, because bearing in mind we're down players net at the moment, and we needed more in at the start. So there's some work to do. There's a hell of a lot of work to do, and only action will sort that. Talking about it's going to solve nought. And so that's what we need to see, in my opinion.
Okay, just time to slip one of these in. I went for a few drinks with a group of masseurs. Talk about well-oiled.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Over 1,800 watching live tonight. Always a pleasure to
well done, everybody. Well done. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to entertain the masses on a Friday night and give you a little bit of level-headed comment. Thanks to Steve, to George, to Mitch, and to Joe. Thanks to everybody in the chat, the moderators. I am back at the ungodly hour in the morning at 8 o'clock. I'm out all day. I'm certainly not coming out after I've been out tomorrow, believe you me. Although it is slightly entertaining, I know. But yeah, I will be on at 8 o'clock in the morning till 8:45. I'll do a live Q&A in the morning before I head out. And look forward to seeing everybody for another live with the professionals on Sunday evening at 5 o'clock. But for now, it's good night from me and good night from them. Good night.
Good
Cheers,
night.
everyone.
Good night.